destruction of your immune system, the destruction of, the destruction, the gliotoxin increase, it destroys your macrophages and T cells. And what does that do? Your innate and your adaptive immune systems are adversely affected. You've basically screwed up your immune system. Okay? Thank you, all of you companies who work with your lobbyists, with your lawyer freaking lobbyists, to poison our children, to poison that much sugar. And the CDC and the NIH and the researchers at MIT and Harvard, they don't say a lot about any of this. But they are out there on NPR talking about, coronavirus. And by the way, 90% of them hate Trump, okay? Also, 6% of scientists are Republicans, 60% are Democrats who think they know it all, and a lot of them are down the street here between MIT and Harvard. That's another aside for you, okay? So what do we have going on here? Let's go back here. So we fundamentally have the following taking place, okay? Now, in a normal, healthy individual, the innate immune system will take care of that pathogen, okay? Remember, 380 trillion viruses in our body. By the way, here's some numbers here. 6 trillion human cells, 60 trillion bacteria, 380 trillion viruses, small number of fungi. This is all we...
I'm going to pause that and write those figures down because I'm going to call them and ask them how on God's green earth would anybody even know that?
They know that.
Yeah.
6 trillion.
Yeah, did you spend 17 years counting them all there, Dr. Shiva?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going to tell him. Dr. Shiva, did you know that 1 trillion seconds is 37,000 years? So theoretically, if you were counting a cell every second, 24 hours a day, which you couldn't do, it would take you 37,000 years to count 1 trillion of the cells. So how do you count 6 trillion cells? All right. So,
and the other thing is, if viruses are, you can only see with an electron microscope 500 times smaller than bacteria, how would you ever count even a space of tissue or whatever in the body to count how many viruses are in there?
Wait, hold on. I'm writing. I want to get what you said. A small number. Okay. So what'd you say? Say it again.
I was just saying if viruses can only be seen with an electron microscope 500 times smaller than a bacteria, how could you even count them within a certain area of?
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Good point. In other words, I get you. If you can only see one virus, well, let's even assume that under the electron microscope, which you can only see viruses under an electron microscope, you certainly can only see so many of them.
Right. And
but actually, you're right. Oh man, you just brought up a profound question then, because how do you even see the tree in the forest? In other words, we understand that you can only see a virus under an electron microscope. So when you zoom down to see the virus, and there's 60 trillion of them, it would still look like a block wall. You wouldn't see anything because you're looking at 60 trillion. How do you isolate one? How do you see one virus amidst 60 trillion viruses with an electron microscope? 380
trillion viruses.
Right. 380.
60 trillion bacteria.
Right. So that's a good point. How do you see 380 trillion? How do you see one virus? It's like looking at a forest from outer space and identifying a tree.
Yeah, well, I'm sure somebody's got answers somewhere.
Right. We'll see if we can get them from them. All right. Let's continue.
Okay.
Within you right now, okay? So now, in a normal, healthy individual, the innate system will take care of the pathogen. Now, in the non-healthy individual, be it an adult or a child, the innate immune system is not able to take care of the pathogens, okay? Because of the destruction through either sugar.
Yeah.
These would be good slides, I guess, to put on our website, the Big Virus Hoax.
Yeah, you mean like these slides he's using?
Yeah, that people probably have never seen any of this information as far as how many cells and viruses and
Right.
380 trillion viruses in the body would kind of spook people.
I know.
Make them think.
380 trillion viruses. All right, let's move on, man.
Or the thyroid is not working right, or you're not getting adequate amounts of you didn't get adequate amounts of HCl. So let me just review very simply. In the non-healthy individual, what's happening is that could occur two ways. And it's a whole area here. You're under dirty air, dirty water, dirty food. You've compromised your immune system, your thyroid, and your HCl levels are low, whether you're a child or an aging person. And when that happens, your body essentially is not producing the proper vitamin A. Your gut bacteria is off, and now you've compromised your immune system. Now add to that, a lot of sugar diet. What you're furthermore doing to your body in a very unfortunate way is that your body's macrophages and your T cells, the innate and the adaptive, are being destroyed. And now what happens? What happens? Remember, it's not the virus, it's not the virus that kills or harms you. What actually kills and harms you is what is called the cytokine storm. Okay? Cytokine storm. What do I mean by that? Well, let's go back here. If you remember this diagram, innate, adaptive, well, among all of these are what are called cytokines. There's a whole nother set of chemicals that, because your innate and your adaptive systems are harmed, they say, wow, I got to help Bob out. You know, I got to help Bill out. What should I do? Because your body is trying to heal itself. And so what it does then, it unleashes a set of cytokines. Okay? These are chemicals. They're always at a certain level there, but they get overreact. This is the overreaction caused by those underlying conditions by people whose systems have been weakened by the different areas that I just gave you a glimpse of. So when the immune system is compromised, you have a cytokine storm. All these other chemicals start raging to try to make up for the fact that the other subsystems have failed. I hope that's clear. Very simple stuff. Your body tries to be in balance. Your body tries to protect you. So it unleashes these cytokines. It basically starts firing off missiles everywhere to saying, oh my God, I got to protect Bob, okay? And as a part of that, what happens, this cytokine storm, these chemicals go and start attacking your own tissues. So by way of example, in Ebola, the cytokines start because, by the way, just to give you a visual understanding, the viruses, if you think about a virus, it has a layer on it. Outside of it is called glycoproteins. Inside of that is the RNA, which is the nucleic acids, which go into your cell and take over your cell machinery. But when that happens, the pieces of the outside, the glycoproteins, they're like the shedding hair. They go settle all different places. Now, in the case of Ebola, these essentially go into the arterial endothelial, which is in your arteries, in your heart cells, in your endothelium. This is why you start bleeding outside, which you start basically, bleeding from inside, and that occurs because your own cytokines go over to that arterial endothelial cells and they start killing it. Now in corona, it's the cytokine storm that attacks the epithelium, which is a different set of cells in your lungs. So let me summarize that again. Your body is compromised. 50-plus-year-old people are not their systems are compromised. The body starts attacking. In the case of coronavirus, the glycoproteins go embed in the cells, the epithelial cells, and your own body cytokine, because it's compromised, starts attacking the cell walls, and you start having respiratory failure. Okay?
I got to pause him because he might have lost me, but this goes back to some things we've been talking about, Brian, right? About a cell, about a virus being an external thing that penetrates into a cell, which he kind of alluded to. But then he comes back and saying, let me just go back here a few seconds. 36, 29, 36. Let me see something here.
The glycoproteins go embed in the cells, the epithelial cells.
The glycoproteins are what he's saying. He was indicating that that's what's inside of a virus.
No, that was the outer shell of the virus. The inside is the RNA.
Right, but yet he said that's what embeds in the cell. So let's see if there's a contradiction here. Let's back up just a little more. We got to see this part again here.
So let me summarize that again. Your body is compromised. 50-plus-year-old people are not worked. Their systems are compromised. The body starts attacking. In the case of coronavirus, the glycoproteins go embed in the cells.
See right there, the glycoproteins go embed in the cells. I got to back it up a little more because we got to really make sure we get what he's saying here when he's trying to describe the idea of viruses. Because this is where, again, you know, your initial thing was that there are no cells at all, no viruses at all. They don't exist. And then Tom Barnett's idea was that viruses are just, you know, solutions, but then solvents, but then he, you know, slightly moderated that on his second video, saying he would have just clarified that the solvent is actually created as a breaking down, which again sounded to me very much like the process of phagocytosis, which is simply when cells engulf cell debris, right? So it would seem to me that the basic understanding of cells simply going out through the body and you know, engulfing cell debris is about where it would stop logically. Even going this route with him, you know, it becomes illogical. You know, 380 trillion viruses. Like, how would they even know that? You know, and again, you know, we'd have to, you know, ask him even further. Okay, 380 trillion viruses. What? 380 trillion different types of viruses? You know, or is it, you know, certain types of viruses and there's 10 trillion of each? You know what I mean?
I can't remember if he mentioned that, but
yeah. So we'll clarify. But let's hear. I backed it up a little. Let's try to catch this here.
Well, I was also going to mention that why do some supposed experts say that the viruses inject themselves into the cell? And I don't know that he said that.
That's what I thought. I just heard him say, and I backed it up a little. So let's listen intently again here.
What happens, this cytokine storm, these chemicals go and start attacking your own tissues.
Okay, so the first thing we need to realize, as he's saying, the cells he's talking about, the cytokines, are actually natural. They're in the body. They're the body cells. They're like, you know, human cells. And they're kind of like the T cells. They're cells that help to you know, attack foreign matter, right?
Well, I was just looking up cytokine to see what the definition is, because he didn't really define it, I don't think.
Well, let me look it up then. Cytokines. I'll look it up on the screen here. Google cytokines. Cytokines. Definition. The cytoplasmic division of a cell at the end of mitosis or meiosis, bringing about the separation into two daughter cells. Cytokinesis is the part of the cell division process during which the cytoplasm or a single eukaryotic cell divides into two daughter cells. Cytoplasmic division begins during or after the late stages of nuclear division in mitosis and meiosis or meiosis, which, you know, again, cytokinesis, the division of a cell. Well, why is the cell dividing? That's what I want to know. Cytokines. Cytokines are a broad and loose category of small proteins important in cell signaling. Cytokines are peptides and cannot cross the lipid bilayer of cells to enter the cytoplasm. Sometimes I think all this shit is just made up. You know what I mean? Like if you get right down to it, we're energy, you know, because I don't know how familiar you are with this, but you know, historically, we've always been told that you can see an atom under an electron microscope. But I've read recent research that said that that's all bullshit, that there's no such thing as an atom in a physical sense, that the atom is a energy wave. It's in other words, it's an electrical current. It's an electronic vibration, a frequency. That's what the atom is. There's no components to it like they declare, like they say.
Electron, proton, neutron.
Right, like neutrons, protons, that's all bullshit. And even if they exist, those are just other little currents, you know, wrapping around currents. That everything is you know, based on frequency, which again is what, you know, the greatest thinker, in my opinion, oh damn, what's his name? You know, rival to Edison, created the electricity. What's his name? Hurry.
Right. Yep.
Why am I forgetting his name? Somebody else watching this video already's got it. You're right. Thank you, but I can't hear you. It's right there on the tip of my brain, man. Hey, Pop! What's his name, man? He invented, man, right? Let me look it up. Thomas Edison's rival, right? Thomas Edison's rival. What's his name? Come on. We got a video going here, man.
You're saying that created the electrical...
His competitor, man. His rival. The greatest thinker of all time, man. I can't remember his name, man.
Einstein.
No, man. Einstein was nothing compared to this guy. Tesla. Jesus Christ, man. Tesla, man.
Okay.
Nikola Tesla, man. That's the man.
Right.
Nikola Tesla says everything is frequency, energy. So, and I believe that. So sometimes I think all this shit we're looking at is all part of the devil's bullshit, smokescreen. You know, oh, you can break it down into cells and cytokines, and they come up with all these fancy fucking words and shit that are probably bullshit. They don't even exist. Peptides and parts of cells and neurons and proteins, when probably none of it even exists, man. It's just that we're energy, you know, and everything breaks down to a cellular level, you know, but when you go beyond that to the point of, you know, needing an electron microscope, you're talking about looking at energy waves, you know. But I don't know, you know. Maybe
Here's the definition, just to clarify a little bit, maybe, I don't know.
let me just interject. Let me interject. They also say the devil mixes truth with error, so it could be partly true what I'm saying and partly true what he's saying. Go ahead.
Right. Cytokine, any of a group of small, short-lived proteins that are released by one cell to regulate the function of another cell, thereby serving as intercellular chemical messengers. Cytokine storm.
Right. So let me back up with Dr. Shiva again, because he was explaining viruses. So let's try it again. Here we go.
Yeah.
Will start raging to try to make up for the fact that the other subsystems have failed. I hope that's clear. Very simple stuff. Your body tries to be in balance. Your body is tries to protect you. So it unleashes these cytokines. Basically,
Okay, so again, when he's saying the body's trying to protect itself, that is essentially reference, you know, he's inferring cells in the body that are kind of there to help protect the body, kind of like the white blood cells, the T cells, all B cells, all that. That's essentially what he's referring to.
basically starts firing off missiles everywhere to saying, oh my God, I got to protect Bob, okay? And as a part of that...
Right, so again, he uses his little example of these cells are firing off missiles everywhere, because basically, yeah, they're there to defend the body.
What happens, this cytokine storm, these chemicals go and start attacking your own tissues.
Okay, so the chemicals that these cells that are supposed to be, defending the body, start sending off, start attacking your own body. So it's like the body attacking itself, which, by the way, is highly associated with even the whole AIDS epidemic issue and AIDS and HIV. They basically say that was an immune efficiency syndrome, right? You know, AIDS, anti-immune deficiency syndrome of some sort.
Autoimmune deficiency, yeah.
Autoimmune, right.
Yeah,
So it's like the body's attacking itself, right? Which, of course, everything he's saying now in this conversation we're having, actually helps to validate and support things we've referenced before about AIDS not even existing, right? That it's bullshit. It's really just the body's attacking itself, and they're calling it a fucking virus. All right, let's see. Let's go on.
So by way of example, in Ebola, the cytokines start because, by the way, just to give you a...
So he's about to say in Ebola, and apparently Ebola is a disease where people just bleed, right? They're like bleeding all over the place, right?
That's kind of what it sounded like, yeah.
Yeah. So let's see.
A visual understanding. The viruses, if you think about a virus, it has a layer on it. Outside of it is called glycoproteins.
All right, so yeah, that's why I had to catch him. He said if you think of a virus, right?
Cytokines start because, by the way, just to give you a visual understanding, the viruses, if you think about a virus, it has...
Okay, talking about a virus here.
Has a layer on it.
Has a layer.
Outside of it is called glycoproteins.
Glycoproteins on the outside, supposedly.
Inside of that is the RNA, which is...
Inside of that is the RNA.
The nucleic acids.
Which is the nucleic acids, which again, all this could be bullshit they're just making up, but let's go with it.
Which go into your cell and take over your cell.
See, now right there, he said, so right now, in theory, I'm going to pull this up just for the sake of this video. I'm going to YouTube, and I'm going to type in Dr. Dave. Remember Dr. or Professor Dave on viruses, right? Professor Dave on viruses. It's the one you sent me once where here he is. Professor Dave explains viruses, right? So, and on this video, remember it's the video where I told you it shows this thing rearing up its back and driving a spike into the cell? So let's compare.
Hello, I'm Patrick Stewart.
Hi, Patrick.
Did you know that right now over...
Dave, let's talk about viruses.
He knows a lot about the science stuff. Professor Dave explains.
We now have a pretty good understanding of what's going on inside a cell. So we are ready to look at different kinds of unicellular organisms. But before we get to those, let's take a look at something a bit simpler, a virus. Contrary to popular belief, viruses are not alive. They are much smaller and simpler than single-celled organisms like bacteria, and they do not meet most of the criteria that biologists agree are required to call something alive.
Now, right off the bat, if we went back to Shiva's, wasn't Shiva just saying that, because we got to make sense of what he's saying about, okay, the body's trying to defend itself, right? With the cytokines, so which I guess we'll get back to that. But then he started to explain a virus. So again, let's look at this video real quick.
Living organisms must be able to perform metabolism, making energy from food. Viruses cannot. Life must be able to reproduce out of its own capacity. Viruses do not. They can be considered biologically inert. So viruses exist in a kind of gray area in between simple molecules and living organisms.
Well, that's convenient. Viruses exist in a gray area. Gotcha. Okay.
So what's inside a virus exactly? In truth, a virus is pretty much just genetic material in a protein casing.
When somebody says in truth, does that mean they've been lying up until then?
Oh, right, exactly. So in truth, because we've been lying up until now, and this is a lie too, but it's essentially genetic material. Okay, what the hell is genetic material, right? Isn't genetics what makes up your body? So what? It's my own genetics? Genetics from where? Foreign genetics?
And you just go right before in truth?
What's that? Oh, okay. All right, hold on.
Organisms. So what's inside a virus exactly? In truth, a virus is pretty much just genetic material in a protein casing. There is no membrane, no organelles, not much of anything we are used to seeing in living creatures. Nevertheless, viruses reproduce by injecting their genetic material into a host cell, thereby hijacking the cellular machinery of the cell and forcing it to make copies of the virus instead of what the cell would normally be doing.
Okay, so this guy just gave this utterly ridiculous, I would say, but he gave a graphic essentially for us here of what Dr. Shiva is essentially explaining. So let's go back to Shiva. So Shiva just said, you know, there's the outer casing. I'll go back just a touch. We're on 3520. I'll go back to 3514.
Inside of that is the RNA, which is the nucleic acids, which go into your cell and take over.
So that, again, that's what he just said. He said, so on this diet, Professor Dave is showing this virus raising its back and driving a spike into the cell and injecting some kind of a long string into its RNA into the cell. So that's essentially what Shiva's saying here too. Hold on.
Viruses, if you think about a virus, it has a layer on it. Outside of it is called glycoproteins. Inside of that is the RNA, which is the nucleic acids, which go into your cell and take over your cell machinery. But when that happens, the pieces of the outside, the glycoproteins, you know, they're like the shedding hair. They go settle all different places. Now, in the case...
Boy, it sounds to me like he just watched Professor Dave's video, man. Because Professor Dave's video shows things just going all over into different places, man. I swear to God, it's like they're both on the same team here or something. You know, with all due respect to Shiva, we'll drill him. We'll definitely put him to the grill with some questions. But you know, he definitely just described this. It's almost comical. I'm gonna replay back to when he's describing a cell, and then I'm going to play Professor Dave's video right when he shows it happening, and watch how remarkable they're the same. Of course, some people would use that as saying that's proof. See, two different people saying the same thing. But again, if they're both learning from the same book, they're going to have the same idea, assuming they're not on the same team altogether.
Brain, no organelles, not much of anything we are used to seeing in living creatures.
Okay, I'll pause it there, and let's see here. 34.
By peoples whose systems have been weakened by the different areas that I just gave you a glimpse, but it is a complex. So let me summarize that again.
Okay, here he goes. So he's going to explain, and then I'm going to show Professor Dave's.
Okay.
Your body is compromised. 50-plus-year-old people are not work. Their systems are compromised. The body starts attacking, in the case of coronavirus, the glycoprotein, etc. And the other things you need to start: dirty air, dirty water, dirty food. Brought to you by a little bit of knowledge here. It's going to get not too technical, but and we keep call them lawyer L.
I just didn't catch where he was at. Damn it! I thought it was 34 something, but
I thought it was 35 something. Wasn't it?
let me try.
Machinery. But when that happens, the pieces of the inside of that is the RNA, which is the nucleic acid, to give you a visual understanding.
Okay, here he goes. He's going to give a visual understanding of virus. Should I let him, or should I show him, and then we'll do Professor Dave's little 3D animation. Here we go.
Okay.
The viruses, if you think about a virus, it has a layer on it. Outside of it is called